The feast of Saint Isidore of Seville, celebrated annually on April 4th, is a commemoration of the profound intellectual, spiritual, and cultural contributions made by one of the most eminent figures of the early Middle Ages. Saint Isidore, who passed away in 636 AD, held the influential position of Archbishop of Seville for over 30 years, during which he helped to preserve, consolidate, and transmit a vast body of classical and Christian knowledge. His efforts during a period marked by political upheaval and cultural transformation across the Iberian Peninsula earned him the status of a true visionary and luminary in both the ecclesiastical and academic worlds. Born around the year 560 AD into a noble Hispano-Roman family in the port city of Cartagena, Isidore was the youngest of 4 siblings, Leander, Fulgentius, and Florentina, all of whom were later canonized by the Church. This remarkable family heritage reflects a deep-rooted commitment to the Christian faith and ecclesiastical service. Raised and educated by his elder brother Leander, who served as archbishop before him, Isidore was immersed from an early age in the rigorous study of Latin, Greek, and Hebrew, alongside an extensive education in the liberal arts, classical philosophy, and Christian theology. His intellectual capacity and spiritual devotion were evident even in his youth. Isidore's most celebrated achievement is his encyclopedic work, the Etymologies, also known as the Origins, a 20-book compendium that ambitiously sought to catalogue the entirety of human knowledge as it was understood in his time. The work drew heavily on classical sources such as Pliny the Elder, Cicero, and Boethius, as well as on contemporary theological insights. The topics it covered included language, grammar, rhetoric, mathematics, astronomy, geography, agriculture, medicine, law, military science, philosophy, and religious doctrine. The Etymology not only preserved important knowledge from antiquity but also systematized it in a form accessible to scholars and clergy throughout medieval Europe. For centuries, this vast work served as a fundamental educational text in monastic libraries and cathedral schools. It was arguably the most copied book after the Bible during the early medieval period. Because many ancient texts were lost during the decline of the Roman Empire, Isidore's compilation preserved countless excerpts that would have otherwise disappeared from history. His effort to preserve this knowledge solidified his reputation as the last of the great Latin Church Fathers and earned him recognition as a precursor to the encyclopedists of the Enlightenment. As a church leader and theologian, Isidore also made monumental contributions. His ecclesiastical career was defined not only by his intellectual pursuit but by his administrative and pastoral diligence. When he succeeded his brother as Archbishop of Seville, he took on the task of unifying the Visigothic kingdom under Nicene Christianity, at a time when much of the population still adhered to Arianism. His efforts culminated in his leadership at the Fourth Council of Toledo in 633, a synod that addressed theological unity, clerical education, and the moral obligations of the Christian life. One of the landmark outcomes of the council was the requirement for the establishment of cathedral schools in every diocese, a move that aimed to educate clergy and, by extension, the laity. This initiative laid the groundwork for what would become the medieval European educational system and reflected Isidore's conviction that knowledge and faith were inseparable in guiding society toward justice and piety. He believed that education should serve the moral and spiritual development of individuals while also supporting the cohesion and governance of Christian communities. Isidore's theological writings include works on ecclesiastical disciplines, biblical exegesis, moral theology, and polemics against heresies. These writings show his deep engagement with the intellectual challenges of his era and his desire to offer a coherent, accessible Christian worldview. Unlike many thinkers of his time who were wary of pagan sources, Isidore advocated for the integration of classical learning with Christian doctrine. He believed that truth, wherever found, ultimately pointed to God, and he encouraged the faithful to study the works of ancient authors alongside Scripture. In addition to his role as a scholar and bishop, Isidore was known for his profound piety, humility, and charitable works. He was a spiritual shepherd who cared deeply for the people under his charge, often working to alleviate poverty, promote justice, and ensure that the church was a place of refuge and instruction. His efforts to convert the remaining Arians and bring greater spiritual unity to the Visigothic kingdom had lasting effects on the religious landscape of the Iberian Peninsula. Saint Isidore's legacy continued to flourish after his death. He was canonized for his virtues and contributions and was officially declared a Doctor of the Church by Pope Innocent XIII in 1722, joining the ranks of the Church's most esteemed theologians. In a strikingly modern recognition of his life's work, Pope John Paul II proclaimed Isidore the patron saint of the Internet, computer programmers, and users in 1997. This designation was inspired by his commitment to organizing and making knowledge accessible, a mission that resonates with the goals of the digital age. The Feast of Saint Isidore of Seville is an occasion for both liturgical celebration and scholarly reflection. It invites the faithful to honor a man whose devotion to truth, education, and the Church continues to inspire new generations. In churches, schools, libraries, and digital communities, people gather to pay tribute to a saint whose life exemplified the unity of intellect and faith. Hymns, prayers, lectures, and even online forums are among the many forms of observance, connecting the ancient wisdom of Isidore with the modern world's unceasing pursuit of knowledge. In contemporary society, where information is abundant yet often fragmented, Saint Isidore's approach to knowledge, rooted in ethical purpose and spiritual depth, offers a model of how learning can be used for the betterment of humanity. His synthesis of classical and Christian thought provides a framework for engaging with diverse sources of wisdom without compromising faith. He teaches us that learning is not merely the accumulation of facts, but a path to understanding our place in creation and our responsibility toward one another. Today, veneration of Saint Isidore extends far beyond Spain. From academic institutions and theological seminaries to churches and online communities, his influence endures. His feast day is marked by scholarly symposia, special masses, and digital commemorations that highlight the enduring relevance of his teachings. As we navigate an increasingly interconnected and technologically complex world, Saint Isidore's example encourages us to approach knowledge with humility, integrity, and a sense of sacred purpose. The legacy of Saint Isidore of Seville is a shining example of how faith and reason can coexist harmoniously and how the wisdom of the past can guide the aspirations of the future. His feast day reminds us that the pursuit of knowledge, when aligned with compassion and truth, is one of the most noble callings in both religious and secular life. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, and don't forget to subscribe to Medieval Chronicles 1066 for more journeys back to the Middle Ages. Stay curious.